Now, I do come from a long line of disabilities because I stutter. My father was blind, he really was, and my mother and brother are Alabama fans. So I gotta see where I stand. Hey, I got a few War Eagles. Plus, the biggest man in the room, Kerry, he's got my back. That's right, War Eagle. That's what I'm talking about. But it was tough growing up in Opelika because my mama and my brother and my daddy all Alabama fans. And see, I was conceived in 1971. That's year that Pat Sullivan won the Heisman Trophy, and then '72 Auburn won the infamous Bama punt game. I was 6 months old. I'll never forget it. And I'm like, this is so cool. And then Alabama went on to win for the next 9 consecutive years, 3 national championships, blah, blah, blah. You know, all that stuff. I really never knew what I was going to do. And then 1980, another stuttering guy came onto the scene named Herschel Walker at the University of Georgia. Then in 1982, Bo Jackson showed up at Auburn. He stuttered too. I'm like, well, I guess if you stutter, you're going to be a football player. So I didn't know anybody else that stuttered except for my brother, and he was actually a pretty good football player too. But when he turned 12 years old, he's 2 years older than I am. When he turned 12, he just quit stuttering. I was like, yeah, 2 more years, you know. 37 years later, still going strong, but I wouldn't change that for a thing. But I actually was the starting quarterback for the Opelika Junior High School football team in 1985, the first game of the year, playing South Girard out of Phoenix City. And I'll never forget, we were down by 5. We had all 3 timeouts left, but only 1 minute left in the game. And I just knew that I was going to be able to drive my team down for the winning score. They were going to carry me off the field like Rudy. It was going to be the best thing ever. And I dropped back to pass and hit my best friend Adrian over the middle for a 9-yard gain. And I ran down to the referee and I said, time out. He charged us with all 3 timeouts. We lost that game. That was my first and last start, but that's okay. I wasn't meant to be a football player. Now, it's very important after I tell that joke there to let you know that my stutter is 100% real, but for some of the storytelling purposes, I will fake the stutter just for the story itself. I don't want anybody to say, he doesn't really stutter. Trust me, I've been stuttering my whole life. My mama said, Jody, we'll never forget your first word. She said, we have no idea what you said, but had about 12 syllables. We thought you were going to be a genius or something. But and then that's when I said, War Eagle. You know, that all worked out good there. But every year at Christmas in Opelika, Santa would set up a trailer at the Midway Plaza at the shopping center there. And I grew up poor. I thought everybody lived in trailers. Why not Santa Claus? And you know, this was in the 70s. It had the wood paneling, the shag carpet. And I guess when Mama dropped us off, when I opened up the door, I caught Santa Claus off guard because he had his beard down smoking a Lucky Strike. And this was the 70s. And he said, look, he stuttered too. Had a stuttering Santa Claus, you know, that was good for my self-esteem. He said, little boy, what do you want for Christmas? I said, Santa, let me get a skateboard. And I ran there Christmas morning, had 8 skateboards on the tree. Best Christmas of all time, right there. But I talk a lot about stutter. I travel all the country. I just got back from Williamsburg last night, and I speak and talk about all kinds of stuff. But it used to be just straight comedy, but then it kind of transformed into like motivational type stuff. unintentionally with the stuttering, because I try to bring awareness to stuttering through humor, because if you stand up and go blah, 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 it's going to go in one ear and out the other. But if you can add some humor to it, then that's cool. And I am a member of the National Stuttering Association, which is a wonderful organization. It's not a pity party. If it was, I wouldn't be a part of it. It's empowerment, it's enrichment, it's entertainment, it's education. We have a great conference in great cities across America every year. It's a 4-day conference. For any other group, probably 2 days. But it's always fun. And there are things about stuttering that you may not know. For example, 4 out of 5 people who stutter are guys. So what that means, if you're a dude going to the National Stuttering Convention, you better bring your A game. It's like, how you doing? My name's Ric Flair, you know, woo! You got to play off there and be as cool as you can. But it really is awesome. It's a great organization to be a part of. There are a lot of great people throughout history that have stuttered. I've met some great people at the conference, but you have to go back to history, like Moses stuttered. And I've been to Jordan twice entertaining troops, and I've been up on top Mount Nebo. I'm like, yeah, man. Me and Moses, two stuttering guys up there. That's kind of cool. But Moses stuttered, Albert Einstein, Winston Churchill, Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and the greatest, most iconic voice of the last 42 years at least, James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader. He stuttered so bad that he just quit talking, right? That's how bad. But could you imagine had he not been able to overcome his stutter, which to me, overcoming anything doesn't mean you're cured of it. It just means you learn to live with it and do the best that you can. But Star Wars would have been a different movie all the way around. It would have been like, Luke, I am your See, now you know why he breathes like that, you know. And he wears the mask to cover up the funny-looking face, you know. So it all makes sense. I always also like to talk about the importance of listening to people. It's so important to listen to people. No matter what you do in this life, if you never leave your house and you're with your kids or your family or you're at work, listen to people, because number one, it's the polite and courteous thing to do. Number two, you may learn something. The oldest person in this room can learn from the youngest, and the youngest can learn from the oldest. And number three, they may say something funny, and humor can get us through so very, very, very much. That guy that I threw the pass to, Adrian, he's still one of my best friends to this day. So my phone's right there, it doesn't matter. So I'm over there playing on my phone, and we're driving down the road the other day in Opelika. And I'm playing on my phone, whatever I'm doing over there. I'm playing on my website, jodyfuller.com. All right, just want to make sure. I majored in marketing at AU, and business marketing. So, right. So I'm playing on my phone, and we come up to a traffic light, and Adrian says, Jody, I said, what's up? He said, do you think they drove all the way up here from Ecuador? I said, do what? He said, that car tagging from us, they're from Ecuador. And I leaned forward and looked real hard. I said, dude, that says educator, right? See, I always have to listen to what people say. Well, I'm flying out to Las Vegas a couple of years ago, and I'm sitting next to a sweet lady. She didn't mean anything by it. She wasn't trying to be ugly or anything. She just didn't know any better. So one of the biggest pet peeves for people who stutter is people wanting to finish our words or sentences for us. And a lot of times I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all most of the time. But I'm sitting next to a sweet lady. Again, she didn't mean any harm, but she asked, she said, so where are you staying? I said, I'm staying at the, she said, MGM? I said, no ma'am, no ma'am. I said, I'm staying at the, she said, Mirage? I said, no ma'am, not there either. I said, I'm staying at the, she said, Monte Carlo? I said, lady, this ain't named that tune. You ain't gonna win nothing. I said, I'm staying at the Bellagio. Which between you and me, I was really staying at Mandalay Bay. But I just didn't want her to know all that right there. But I really never knew what I was going to do in life. I didn't know where the good Lord was going to take me, where I was going to head. But when I was 16 years old, I started working at Kroger drugstore in Opelika. And like where I worked at was a little drugstore. Then there was a solid wall. And then there was the big Kroger next door. Now we got a brand new Kroger in Tigertown. So now the big Kroger's a Piggly Wiggly. The little Kroger's a Dollar General. Because if you've ever seen the movie Field of Dreams, what do they say? If you build it, they'll come. We know in Georgia and Alabama, if you build it and leave it empty for 2 days, a Dollar General will come. All right? That's what happened there. And because I believe when all is said and done in this world, there's going to be about 3 things left. Cockroaches, Dollar Generals, and Alexander Shannara signs. Right? Everywhere, right? So, but I worked there for a long time, and I worked there for 3.5 years, and then I went to the Army. And then for 4 years, and I came back and worked there for 5 years while I was in college. But back by our time clock, there was a big sign above it that said, "Smile and be helpful to every customer because they're the only reason that you are here." And I've always tried to take that with me wherever I go. But that doesn't mean that customers can't say funny stuff, right? I love the customers, but you're not laughing at them, but become friends with them, but they can say funny stuff because we all say and do funny things, and humor can get us through so very much. So we had the cash register here, and we had the little counter at the very end, and behind the counter were things like films, was a film and batteries and perfume and cologne, things like that. So I'm looking down there one day, and there's an older lady down there, and she's just spraying cologne and perfume like just going to town like there's no tomorrow, got a big mist above her head like Los Angeles. And I said, "Ma'am, can I help you?" She said, "Yes, sir. I'm looking for some perfume that I saw last week, but now I can't find it." I said, "Well, do you remember what it was called?" And she said, "Yes, sir. It was called Tester." Like, you want the big bottle or the little bottle? Having a variety of colors too. Had another guy that came there, and this is my favorite story from Kroger of all time. Now, half of you will get it today. The other half of you may get it tomorrow after lunch. So y'all pay attention. It's my favorite story ever. So a guy comes in, he's got $2 to his name. He's coughing, sneezing, head hurt, nose stopped up, ear stopped up. You name it, he's got it. But again, he told me that his biggest problem is that he only had $2 to his name and he could not sleep. So I walked to the back and I showed him Kroger's version of NyQuil called Nighttime. That's key. Kroger's version of NyQuil is called Nighttime. And back in the day, it was $1.79 plus tax. It's called Nighttime. And he looks at it, and as soon as he sees it, he shakes his head. He said, no, I can't take this. I said, "Why not?" He said, "Man, I work third shift." Favorite story of all time right there. I love it. Now, I had another guy that came in, and he too had a speech impediment, and he since we became friends, and he told me, "Man, you can tell this story wherever you." So I'm not making fun of this guy. I don't want anybody to say he gave me his express written consent to tell this story, but he too had a speech impediment. I didn't realize it when I first met him. So I have trouble with S words and words again with S, so all this kind of stuff. Like, so when I travel, I like to eat. When I get to my destination, I like to eat like really well. But when I'm traveling, I like to get a fish sandwich from McDonald's. Right? I don't know why. They're awful. They're disgusting. They're greasy. Sometimes you get the little hard bouncy thing. It's terrible. It's awful. But I like to get them nonetheless. I was coming back from the airport last night, and I stopped at the McDonald's in LaGrange there, and I pulled up. And I can stand in front of y'all right now, and I can say fish sandwich, fish sandwich, fish sandwich, fish sandwich, fish sandwich. But you put me at that drive-through window, there's going to be a line, I can assure you, right? So I pulled up to the window, and the girl's like, "Can I take your order?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, let me have a." She said, "Excuse me?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, let me have one." She said, "You're going to have to repeat that." I said, "I'm trying." I said, "Yes, ma'am, let me have one chicken sandwich, please hold the mayo." And you think they mess up your order at the drive-thru? I get like 6 orders of fries. I said, "I did not order 6 orders of fries, ma'am." She said, well, right here on the receipt. Fry, 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 fry. I said, "Well, that's only 5. Give me some money back, right? So I could understand this next guy having an issue with S words and stuff. So he comes in there and he's stretching across the counter as far as he can stretch, but it's coming up a little bit short. I said, sir, can I help you? He said, yeah, let me get a bottle of your old Pice. I said, excuse me? He said, yeah, let me get a bottle of your old Pice right there in the red bottle. I said, oh, Old Spice. He said, yeah, I have trouble with my S words. I'm like, I do too, man, I got you. So I reached back there and I picked up the only thing of Old Spice cologne that we had. And he looked at it and said, I said, what is it? He said, this is the Pre-On. Do you have the Plash-On? I said, do what? He said, this is the Pre-On. Do you have the Plash on? Because I like to plash it on my kin. I'm like, and they don't mind? Do you go to family reunions? Like, bam, bam, bam. We know where you were this weekend. I said, no, sir, no, sir. All I have is the Pre-On. So I don't want it. I said, all right. I said, what do you want? He said, do you have the Old Spice deodorant? I said, yes, sir, we do it on the back wall. So I went all the way to the back wall of Kroger, picked up the only thing of Old Spice deodorant that we had, and he looks at it and said, I said, what is it? He said, this is the Tick. Do you have the roll-on? I'm looking around for the cameras at this point. I said, no, sir, all I have is the Tick. And he said, well, I don't want it. I said, all right. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, I don't like the tick because the tick gets tucked to your hair. And it does get tucked. It's like Christmas like. It gets tucked on in. And as sure as I'm standing here, he took about 2 steps over, reached on the top shelf, grabbed a little jar of Tussie, and went to the house. I don't know who thought Tussie was a good idea, but apparently it was better than the tick getting tucked to your hair. Right? But I worked there for a long time. I loved working there. Had so many great customers, all walks of life. Had this one older woman came in one cold December night here in Alabama. It was almost Christmas. She said, young man. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, where are your ointments? So I took her back and I showed her the creams, the salves, the liniments. She said, no, silly, your Christmas ointments. Had another lady named Miss Helen come into the store. Miss Helen was a sweet lady. She'd been a widow for about 10 years, and I actually knew her from my neighborhood growing up. And she had come in there, and she had her hair all fixed up, clothes looked really nice. I said, Miss Helen, you look so nice. And I said, what's the occasion? She said, Jody, I'm looking for a man. So I took a step backwards, and I said, Miss Helen, what kind of man are you looking for? She said, Jody, I'm not looking for a man with money. I said, well, that's good, Miss Helen. What kind of man are you looking for? She said, Jody, I'm not looking for a man with good looks. I said, well, Miss Helen, that is good. What are you looking for? She said, Jody, I'm looking for a man who can drive at night. You know, you get a little bit older, your priorities change there. I do a lot of school in-services to talk to teachers and the faculty when they're going back to school. And I did Sylacauga schools back on August the 5th or something like that. And I did the teachers. Then the superintendent asked me, hey, do you mind going to speak to the cafeteria staff? They can't be here. They're doing this other training. So I said, sure, absolutely, no problem. So I went and I gave them, I usually talk for an hour. I talked to them for about 20 minutes. And it was about 19 females and 1 gentleman. And they were all about middle age or so. And I told that story and they laughed. They got a good kick out. And then it got really quiet. And then about that time, that one guy leaned back in his chair, slipped off his glasses, looked around and said, I can drive at night. I was like, that's my guy right there. But I love working there. I love meeting the people. I love the relationships that I built with the customers. So I said it's 3 reasons to listen to people. Number 1, polite, courteous thing to do. Number 2, you can learn something. Number 3, they may say something funny. But there is a number 4 also. Number 4, Carrie, you're a good man. But I'm going to tell you this right here. So guy comes in there. He's about 6'9". Number 4, if you listen, it could prevent you from getting your hind end whooped, right? So this guy comes in about 6'9", Kerry, he was a big old man. Just, I mean, you would look up to him. Big old scary man. Not that you're scary. I'm just, he was scary. You're a very pleasant man. Big old giant, just a scary looking dude. But thank God, I listen. Because he asked me, this is him, this is not me. He asked me, whoa, that's him, not me. He says, where, that's him, not me. He says, where are your paper towels? So I said, I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say nothing the rest of the day. He could have been lurking or something. But I never knew what I was going to do, and then just the way it worked out, I wound up going into the Army. The best thing I ever did in my life. 2 years in Germany, 2 years at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I had great people who take care of me. And my NCOs, my sergeants, whether I was an E4 or an 04, have always taken care of me. And my sergeants always took care of me. When I first got to Fort Sill, I'd never been to the field other than in basic training and stuff. Because when I was in Germany, I worked at a big hospital there, Landstuhl. And I got there to Oklahoma, and they carried me to the field as soon as I got there. This was in February of 1995. Really cold, wet, rainy, miserable conditions in Oklahoma. So they carried me to the field, and I was not prepared for that, and I was like just miserable. My feet were like blocks of ice. So my Sergeant Garza, who's still a dear friend of mine to this day, he told me, Fuller, next time we come to the field, you go to the PX and you get you some pantyhose and you wear those, and it'll help keep your feet warm. You can thank me later. I said, Roger that, Sergeant. I got you. So I got back to, when we got back, I went to the PX. I loaded up on pantyhose, knee highs. I got some sandal feet for the summer. I mean, I was set for the entire year. However, apparently somewhere in that conversation, I was not listening as intently as I should have, because somewhere he told me that I was supposed to wear those pantyhose in conjunction with regular socks. But I missed that. So there I was running around the woods of Fort Sill, Oklahoma in combat boots and pantyhose. And not only were my feet colder, but I had blisters and I had a run in my hose. I did not feel Army strong, right? but I enjoy that. But I was just ready to get back home and give college another shot. And I was back at Kroger, and I worked there. There was this old country boy named Tim, and Tim had never been a whole lot of places in his life. And we're stocking shelves one night, because by this time the stores had combined into one store. We're stocking shelves one night doing what we're doing. And apparently before he worked at Kroger, Tim drove trucks. So I said, Tim, when you drove, where all did you go? Did you go? And he cut me off. And he said, man, I went to Birmingham, Atlanta, Savannah, all over the world. And Tim's one of these guys that loves going to the county fair. So the Lee County Fair rolled into town that October, and he wanted to go. So he asked me to go, and I said, sure, that's fine. We work night shift, so we went in to the fair that night. And he's one of these guys that I go out there and spend $40 on a goldfish. You've seen these guys spend that money on goldfish, you know. I only spent $20 on mine. So, but then he got this bright idea that he wanted to ride the tilt-a-whirl. How many of y'all ever been on a tilt-a-whirl? Check that block, one and done. I'll never have to do that again. If you've never been on one, it's a round cage. You get against a cage, it spins so fast, the floor drops, and you're stuck to the wall, and you can barely move anything. But I heard Tim over there moaning and groaning, so I could move my head just a little bit just to see what was going on. And when I did, I noticed that Tim forgot to leave his goldfish with a tilt-a-whirl operator. And the goldfish was stuck to the side of the bag like... So when the ride stopped and the floor came up, the goldfish started floating. But so I wound up giving Tim my goldfish. So we spent $60 on one goldfish that night. How smart can you be? But after 9/11, I decided to go back into the Army, and I had some amazing things happen. And stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington, we deployed 2003 for a year, and I used to run convoys all over the place on my first tour over there, and it was so amazing. Men and women, every background, every walk of life, from all over the country, and running convoys at that time. Only the convoy commander had the fancy navigational gear in his or her vehicle, but I had it in mine. So my sergeant's in the lead vehicle with a strip map drawn out. So we're the first people from our battalion to go from this place where we were up in Mosul down to this place called Q West. So we're going down the road, and he's looking at the strip map, and so he knows we're getting close. So he called me up on the radio. He says, "Sir," I said, "What's up, Sergeant?" He said, "You got to let me know where to turn." I said, "Roger that, Sergeant." So I start putting everything into my GPS, and it pulls up. And I said, "All right, Sergeant, here's what you need to do. You need to take a left." He said, "Where at?" I said, "About a half a click back." Blew right past that thing, but we had so much support from back home. Churches, youth groups, civic clubs were huge in helping us, sending us care packages. You know, it means so much to be 7,000 miles away and to let know that people back home are thinking about you. I mean, that really increases the morale of the troops abroad. But had so much stuff. My grandmother was one of the best supporters of all. She was such a wonderful lady, and she'd send all kind of stuff. Sometimes it didn't make sense what she sent because it just didn't. She was from a different era, but she meant well. And one of the tricks of the trade that you do in 125-degree weather is when you get up every day is you get baby powder and put in every nook and cranny on your body. It helps to absorb the moisture and makes for a much more pleasant environment. Well, the mail at that time would take about a month to get there. The PX truck would run out like that of anything we had. So I woke up one day and I was out of baby powder. But then I remembered in a care package that my awesome grandmother from Dadeville, Alabama had sent me was a 4-pound bag of self-rising flour. I said, I got this. I got that self-rising flour. I put in every nook and cranny on my body, and I was good to go. But we wound up going on an emergency convoy that day, and so we're going about 4 hours down the road. We drop our load, come back, and another 4 hours drinking water the whole time, trying to stay hydrated. I'm worn out. By the time I get back to my hooch, I'm ready to call it a day. So I pull off my Kevlar, I pull off my flak vest, I pull off my shirt, and when I pulled off my T-shirt, 2 biscuits fell out. Like, Grandmama knew what she was doing there, no doubt about that. But here's the final story, because Frankie said, "Hey, at 1 o'clock, they're going to get up and leave." So I said, all right. So I'm not even sure what time it is, but we're right on time. My final story is people always ask me about stuttering, like where does it come from, what causes it, and it's still really one of the great unknowns. People have different theories, and you know, well, it's this or that and the other. But I think that I can trace my stutter back to Christmas of 1977. Because I was 5 years old. That's the year that Star Wars hit theaters. And I wanted one thing and one thing only, and that was one of those Chewbacca dolls. Y'all remember the Chewbacca dolls about that big, had a string? All I wanted was a Chewbacca doll. I said, we're poor, couldn't afford a whole lot of stuff. But luckily, my Uncle Kerwood, also from Dadeville, Alabama, was a taxidermist. So I woke up Christmas morning, 1977, 5 years old, with a 13-inch wolf rat laying on my chest. I pulled his tail and it broke off, and I ain't been able to talk straight since. But anyway, I appreciate y'all so very much. Appreciate your service to the community. Thank you. Thank you.